Monica, the idea that this president is going to hold Iran accountable for the plot to assassinate the Saudi ambassador, to bomb both the Israeli and Saudi embassies, holding them accountable, sanctioning their central bank. The act doesn't seem to link up with the tough rhetoric.
And you know what, Lou, this has been true since the Islamic Revolution in Tehran in 1979. This country has been at war with the United States since 1980. They've engaged in numerous terrorist attacks that have killed American citizens, and still the United States seems very reticent and has presidents of both parties on taking on the Iranian regime. This president said yesterday and again today that the Iranian regime will be held accountable. We're not quite sure what that means beyond a repeat of sanctions or the addition of sanctions, is that these kinds of sanctions generally have no bite. This is a terrorist regime that is intent on killing Americans.
Monica, I don't think that's fair. I think their central bank is trembling right now.
Oh, I'm sure, Lou. Yes.
Just don't mess with the Iranian savings and loans.
There you go.
If you don't mind, right?
This is a president who knows full well, as does his senior staff, that Iran, I mean, they're all upset about this plot. The reality is that they have been responsible for the deaths of American servicemen and women in Iraq, in Afghanistan. And why suddenly a press conference here and this business about holding them accountable, and then the next thing we know, there's a sanction against a central bank. Well, what in the world is this?
Let's take them one at a time. First of all, this is a victory. I mean, the prosecutors and the federal investigative authorities have busted open this thing very effectively. And let me tell you, it's a whole lot better than something like this going ahead without our discovering it, because these people were obviously up to some pretty nefarious business.
I'm just not ready to canonize anyone yet over it.
But the next step, I mean, this is a complex war on terror, and there are a lot of pieces of it. There is a role for
complex war. This is not a complex war on terror. It's made complicated because this president and his administration won't call it a war on radical Islamist terrorists.
Right. I think
it's unnecessarily complicated by this president.
But you know what? I don't want to give up.
By the way, and the previous, let's be very clear, also refused to acknowledge that this is a war against radical Islamist terrorists.
And I simply refuse to give up any of our weapons in that war, whether that be criminal prosecutions, whether that be financial sanctions, or ultimately some threat of military action.